Hi everyone, I'm Rincey and this is Rincey Reads. Today I'm going to be doing my May wrap-up and I read a lot of books this month, but first let's talk about the videos that I made. I was looking over my list of videos and apparently I didn't really upload very much this month that wasn't related to Bout of Books. So I will link it to my Bout of Books wrap-up in case you guys are interested in seeing how I did with that. If you didn't see any of those videos, I participated in Bout of Books, which is a week-long readathon, and instead of just doing a readathon like most people normally do, I decided to do it for charity. So for every 100 pages I read, I donated $10 to charity. So I ended up reading about 1,000 pages during Bout of Books, so I donated $100 to the charity of my choice. Again, you can check out that video for more information about the charity and all of the specifics about the books that I read, things like that. So outside of Bout of Books videos, the only other video I posted was the one this week, which was my May book haul, which was slightly larger than my usual book hauls because of Memorial Day weekend sales. In terms of book reviews that I did this month, I reviewed The Enchanted by Readathon, which was the best book that I've read so far this year. If you haven't watched that review, feel free to check it out, but even if you don't watch the review, I highly recommend that book. I also did a review on When You Reach Me by Rebecca Steed, which is a middle grade novel that I also absolutely adored. Then I did a review on Death, Dickinson, and the Demented Life of Frenchie Garcia by Jenny Torres Sanchez, which is still really difficult for me to say. And then this week I put up a review of An Untamed State by Roxane Gay, and that video is slightly longer than my usual reviews. I try to keep my videos in general to 5 minutes or less, outside of like hauls and wrap-ups, but I had a lot of thoughts and a lot of things I wanted to say, so that one's slightly longer, so apologies for that. So outside of those books that I just mentioned that I did reviews of, I read an additional 7-ish books, partially because of Bout of Books, and then partially because after Bout of Books I was totally in that reading mindset and I was picking up a lot of really good books this month, so I kind of just kept going with it. So I read a lot more than I usually do. If you're new to my channel, I generally read between 4 and 5 books a month. I usually average around 1 a week, but this month I read a lot more. So at the beginning of the month I read Wanderlove by Kristen Hubbard. This book I gave a 3 out of 5 stars and I didn't really have a lot of thoughts on it. I was buddy reading this with Jenny from Adultish Books, and I'm going to leave a link to the video where she talks about this book. I thought it was okay. I wasn't like over the moon about it, and the reason why neither of us did a real video on it is because we didn't really have a lot of thoughts on it. At the beginning we both thought it was extremely unrealistic that parents would send their 17 or 18-year-old daughter to South America with no one else with her, and there was just a lot of things where you had to just suspend disbelief and believe that teenagers have access to everything when really they don't. So I mean, I thought it was okay. It was kind of predictable, and I mean, it was alright. I wasn't like upset by this book, or it didn't make me angry, but I didn't think it was particularly noteworthy personally. Then I read In the Garden of Beasts by Erik Larson. This is a nonfiction book that follows William Dodd, who was appointed as ambassador to Germany in 1933, right before World War II started. And this book was kind of disappointing. I mean, I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. It's not a bad book. Again, a lot of these books you're gonna find I gave like 3 out of 5 stars because they were just fine. Erik Larson wrote Devil in the White City, which follows the some years World Fair in Chicago, as well as a serial killer that was in Chicago. So I really like that book, but mostly because I really like the serial killer aspect of the story. This story mainly follows Dodd and his daughter, which was really weird because it didn't feel relevant. The only thing it did was basically just show how people's perspectives were at that time about Hitler and Germany and Nazis, about how even though we all show Germany as being these horrible Jew haters, there was a lot of anti-Semitic things happening all around the world and attitudes in everyone in every country. I didn't find this like particularly engaging, and the stories about his daughter were kind of weird and felt unnecessary, and I also thought it was weird that you never hear anything about his wife or his son, other than the fact that they exist. Literally, like, he doesn't talk about it at all, and so I just thought that is a rather boring character, and you know, there's a reason why no one has talked about him before this point. Then during Bout of Books I read Looking for Alaska by John Green. I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars as well. Some of you guys wanted me to do a review on this because I don't like love it the way a lot of people love John Green books on BookTube. In general, with John Green books, I love his writing and I think he's really talented at like creating stories, but I usually really don't care about his main characters at all. So in this case, I didn't really care at all about Miles in Alaska, and I thought that the most interesting characters in this book and in every John Green book are always the side characters, and I wish the stories were always about them instead of about the main characters. So that's basically the same problems or likes and dislikes I have about every John Green book, outside of The Fault in Our Stars is the only one I've ever given 4 out of 5 stars, and that's because it made me cry. So I felt like I had to give it credit for that. This one, I knew what was going to happen, so I didn't have the surprise or shock factor that other people seem to experience with this book, so I don't know if that would have made a difference in my feelings about this book. But again, I like John Green in general, like just his general writing style, but his books don't necessarily like put me over the moon or anything like that. And then also during Bout of Books, I read Delilah Dirk and the Turkish Lieutenant by Tony Cliff. This is a graphic novel series that I picked up that was just a really fun adventure comic book. It wasn't, you know, again, over the moon amazing or anything like that. If you like adventure-based comics, I recommend this one. It reminds me of kind of like a Disney comic style. Like, I don't know if anyone else read these comics when, like, back in the 90s, but like there was like this Disney magazine that used to be put out, and there would be comics in there based on their popular movies like Aladdin. And so this reminded me of that, especially in the style of the art and things like that. So I feel like if that was a thing you used to read when you were younger, this might be a thing you would be interested in. There are more Delilah Dirk stories. I think I'm give it a chance at least, but I wasn't like blown away by this, but I still think it was fun. I hope that it doesn't sound like I'm really negative about these books because I enjoyed them, I just didn't love them, which is why I didn't review them. And then I read Parnassus on Wheels by Christopher Morley. This is a novella that is printed by Melville House that I absolutely adored, and I really enjoyed this, and I do plan on doing a review of this because I want to talk about it fully. But I highly recommend this novella. It's like a novella and a story made for people who love books. And then I read The Vacationers by Emma Straub. This is a book I got an ARC copy of, and it just came out this week. And I was planning on doing a review of this book, but then I read it and I realized I didn't really have a lot to say about it. It's just a good beach read. If you are interested in beach reads and you just want something that's a family drama, and it takes place in Spain, so it's kind of like giving you the opportunity to go on a vacation without actually leaving your home. I don't know, it felt very like first world problem-y, and I didn't really like the way that everything resolved in the end. I don't know. I mean, I give it a 3 out of 5 stars. Again, I feel like this is like a really good vacation book or an airplane book. If you're going on a trip somewhere and you want to pick up a book, this wouldn't be a bad book to pick up. And then as an audiobook, I listened to Self-Inflicted Wounds by Aisha Tyler. She is a comedian and an actress, and I've seen her in a bunch of different things, and I've like listened to her podcast a couple of times, and so I like her in general, so I decided to give her audiobook a chance, and it wasn't bad. It was basically just listening to her tell stories about her life. If you like Aisha Tyler, you'll like the audiobook. If you've never like experienced anything about Aisha Tyler, like you've never seen her act or never seen any of her stand-up or anything like that, I suggest maybe checking out her podcast, because then you get a sense of her personality and just how she tells stories and things like that. And so if you like that, then check out the audiobook. I think the audiobook is actually better than listening to her podcast, personally, maybe because it's like refined. I saw on Goodreads some people didn't like this book because there are a lot of footnotes, and yes, those footnotes do exist in audiobook form, but it kind of just feels like a slight tangent on the story, so it kind of works because it sounds like how people normally talk when telling stories. And then I also read a couple comic books that I talked about in my Bout of Books video, which were the Lumberjanes comics. I have the first one around here somewhere. So I got issues 1 and 2 of this, and I got issue 1 of Bee and Puppycat, and a lot of you guys told me that Bee and Puppycat is a YouTube video series thing as well, and I haven't checked it out yet, but I do plan on doing that. But I thoroughly enjoyed both of these, and I highly recommend checking them out if you guys are interested in that. And then in terms of what I am currently reading, I'm currently working my way through A Secret History by Donna Tartt, or The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I am currently in chapter 5, and this book is a rather slow read in the sense of, not that it's bad, but it's just like dense, so it takes me longer to read it. So I'm only in chapter 5. I'm hoping to have it done relatively soon, but you know, we'll see what happens. And then I am also currently slowly working my way through The Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss. This is a 1,000 page mammoth, and I am buddy reading this with Susie from Read Susie Read and Christy from One Book More. I will leave links to their channels down in the description in case you guys are interested in checking them out. Christy is a little bit behind because she hasn't started yet, but I'm only on page like 200, and I think Susie is around page 100, so, you know, we're all relatively close to each other, but I absolutely love this world and I love this series and I'm really excited to be back in it again. So, that was my May with a lot of books. Feel free to leave your comments down below letting me know what you thought of any of the books that I read this month, how your May went in terms of reading this month. Did you participate in Battle of Books? I know some of you guys did. So yeah, that's all I have for now. Thanks for watching.